Thank you very much, everybody. So we're going to now cover the G20, and I'm going to let these people go back to the Department of War and figure out how to maintain peace. Okay?
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, General. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Great job.
Sir, just before
You have been listening to the President of the United States. He's there in the Oval Office signing an executive order for changing the name of the Defense Department to the Department of War, a change that dates back to 1949. This was definitely a war posture that the United States was in at that time. Donald Trump saying that right now, in his words, it is a matter of attitude. And that it sends a message of strength to the world in changing that name. A lot of other things happened in that press conference. I want to bring in Ron Brownstein, who's our senior political analyst, and he joins me now. I do want to get first to this name change or the rebranding.
Yeah.
Ron, I ask you, what do you think most Americans would think of this name change, and obviously military families first and foremost?
Yeah, look, I mean, anybody who's walked past a building that, the Trump organization is involved with knows that Donald Trump likes to put his stamp on things, often 2 stories high. But I do think there is a larger message, as you were saying, and it is something like militant unilateralism, militant isolationism, his view that, we are not going to be as involved in allies, but we are going to often unilaterally use force in ways that he thinks advances the national interest. It does convey the kind of belligerence that he applies to pretty much, all other nations around the world, whether traditional allies or adversaries. So, it is revealing of his mindset. Whether families will, consider it appropriate. It's kind of, he's even said it's meant to convey an offensive vision of military force as opposed to a defensive vision of protecting the homeland. And it may be that protecting the homeland construct that I think is more comfortable for families in the military.
It also goes to World War II veterans, certainly, that I've had the privilege to interview over the years. I can't remember any that understand that there's an appropriateness, a time and a place that the country is at war, but have always defended their bravery on the basis that they were, as you said, protecting the homeland and trying to prevent war. Right. In terms of actual material things that relate to the Defense Department, he really dodged questions on 2 issues. I do want to get first, though, to the issue of that boat in international waters, the Venezuelan boat that, many legal scholars have said that this is, and pardon the pun, uncharted waters from the United States, because it is extrajudicial killing, right? There is no due process. No one knows, no one is, or at least it hasn't been disclosed, what was on that boat, who was on it, and that it sets a dangerous precedent. You heard the president there doubling down, saying they will do it again.
Yeah, and that's what I was, kind of saying in the first answer, which is that this actually is reflective of his view of the world, which is not necessarily one that involves working with allies in traditional ways, but does involve a view that the traditional constraints on the unilateral use of American power, whether it's bombing Iran or bombing this boat, or potentially even taking action in Mexico over the objection of the Mexican government against cartels, that all of those are outdated. I mean, there is a worldview here. It is the U.S. as a lone actor moving in ways, not accepting traditional constraints of international law or international alliance when we decide it is in our interest to project power. And in that way, the Department of War is probably, as I said, an accurate reflection of the way he views our interaction with the rest of the world.
Yeah, and we will see exactly how many changes there are. Again, even in changing the name, Congress is supposed to have a role. It has not had a role in too much in terms of what the executive branch decides to do on any given day. Ron Brownstein, we will leave it there. Grateful to you.